Hello everyone and welcome to another SQL query training session with Learn at No Star. In today's session, we are going to be looking at the SQL Regex functions or the regular expressions which can be used for pattern matching. Now we are going to be working with SQL Server, so all the functions, all the code that we are writing, it will be valid across database platforms, but Oracle has some other regex functions which we are not going to cover in this tutorial. So let's get started. Now to write these regular expressions for pattern matching, we need some wildcard characters. These wildcard characters are primarily of 4 types. So you can see that the first is a % operator. So when you write a %, it means that any string of 0 or more characters. The second is an underscore. Underscore refers to one single character. When you write some characters within the square brackets, they refer to a range of characters. So if you want to find anything starting from A to Z, then you can define that range within these square brackets, and you can use this not operator, so this caret operator, as a not operator within the square brackets, which would mean that it is not going to be within that range. That character is not going to be within the range. So if your range is A to C, then your character is anything other than A, B, and C. So obviously we need more examples to understand how these wildcards can be used for regular expression searches. So we are going to do that, and for that I'm going to be working with the sales lt.product table. It's a table from the AdventureWorks LT 2019 database that Microsoft provides. If you don't have that database and don't want to download it, then I will also provide the create and insert scripts for this table, so you can create the test data and work with the queries with which we are going to work right now. So we are going to be looking at plenty of examples to make all these regular expressions simple to understand. So we start with a very simple one, which most of you would have already used. So that is the % character. So we use this mostly with the like clause in the where clause. So if you want to find anything which has, let's say, the word any in it, you would simply write that the name, like, %, any %. So most of us would have used this in our experience as SQL developer. So let's start with that and take an example. So the example that we are going to take is on this table. So before that, taking the example, let's look at the data from this table. So this table has the data. It has different columns: product ID, name, product number, color, list price, size. We are going to be primarily working with the name column and the product number columns, a little bit with the list price and the size columns, and there's one more column at the end, which is the row GUID column. So this is what we would be primarily working with. So the first example that we're going to take is simple enough. It is saying that any name, any product name that has the word bike in it, I want all the records which fulfill that criteria. So to write that query, we are going to simply do a select star from sales lt.product, use the where clause and say name, like, and % bike %. So this should return all the records where the name column has the word bike in it. So we get all those records which have the word bike in it. So this is how we can use the % operator. Now we learn the second operator is the underscore operator. So underscore means when we are referencing to any single character. So let's say what we are trying to do over here is we are saying that the product number, so this is your product number, that has the second character as R. Okay, so the first character can be any character and the second character is going to be R. So how you can write that query is, again, select star from sales lt.product and where product number, like, and then to reference to the first character we are going to use the underscore, and then we are going to say the second character has to be R. So we are going to write R, and then after that any character could occur. So for referencing to any character within the whole range, we have to use the %. Okay, so here the underscore that we have used, it is referencing to a single character, which means that before this R there can only be a single character. So let's run this query now and let's see what our data is like. So if we look at the data, go to the product number column, we'll see that the second character is always R. So FR, there's only one character before R, which is F, which could be anything. In our data, it is F, as we see it here. And then we have all the FR codes in here. So you can see that here, if you look at this particular example, you will see that the second character is R. After R, any character can occur, but before R, there can be only one character. Again, that could be any character. So the next example that we are going to take for the same use case is we are going to say that we are going to specify kind of a pattern where we are saying that the third character has to be a hyphen and the fourth character has to be a U. So how we can write this query is, again, if we select from this and look at the product number, okay, what we are trying to make sure is that the third character is always a hyphen and the fourth character, so after the hyphen, it has to be U. So if we look at the data, the first row will not satisfy that because the first character after the hyphen is an R. Okay. So what we are going to say here is to reference to two characters. Now we are saying that there should be first two characters, which could be any characters, but there can be only two characters before the hyphen. So what we are going to say here is product number like and quotes 1 underscore for the first character, second underscore for the second character. After the second character, there has to be a hyphen. So I'm going to put the hyphen, and the fourth character, which means the character after the hyphen has to be a U. So I'm going to put a U. After U, there could be any number of characters and any character could be there. So to do that, I'm going to use the % wildcard. Now this is my query that I would need. So if I execute this query now, we will see we have got only 3 records. In these 3 records, after the hyphen, we have a U, and after U, we can have any number of records or any characters or any number of characters. Okay, so now going back to the next example, we are going to make it a little more complicated, our pattern. So our pattern is now going to be, so we are going to check simply that there has to be a specific pattern to be followed for the product number column. So again, let's do a complete select on the table. Now what we are going to say is that the first 2 can be any characters. They have to be followed by a hyphen, and then there have to be 4 characters. So in most of the examples, there are 4 characters. Let's see. All right. So most of them have 4 characters. So we are just making sure that all the data is adhering to that. And then what we are saying that after the 4 characters, there has to be a hyphen again. And after the hyphen, there has to be only a single character. So if we look at this example, there are 2 characters after the second hyphen. In this example, we have only 1 hyphen. So there is nothing, there is not the second hyphen that we need in the pattern. So these records should be filtered out. Records like these should be satisfying this condition. So what we are going to look at is something like this should be satisfying this condition. Okay, so we are going to write this query now, again using the where clause, where product number like. Okay, so let's start defining the pattern. So any 2 characters, first character, 2 characters, which make it any 2 characters, followed by a hyphen. So we specify the hyphen by any 4 characters. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I'm just going to pull it up so that it is clearer for you. So any 4 characters followed by a hyphen. So sorry, I'm going to put a hyphen again, followed by any single character. So it has to be a single character. So for referencing a single character, I have to put the underscore again. Okay, so this is what I want as my pattern. Okay, now let's see if we execute this. you will see that there are many other records which are satisfying the condition. So the pattern has been fulfilled. What we said, any 2 characters, so 2 underscores for the first 2 characters, then a hyphen, then any 4 characters, so 4 underscores for the second, for these 4 characters, then a hyphen, and any 1 character, so a single character, so a single underscore to reference to that character. So this is how we can generate a pattern, how we can reference to every single character and define whether it has to be a particular character or it could be any character. If it can be any character, we put an underscore for that position of the character. If it has to be a specified character, we put that specified character in it. Now the third kind of wildcard that we earlier saw were the square brackets. The square brackets are used to reference to a set of values, which could be a range of values. So it could be A to D, or it could be any 3, 4, 2, any number of specific values. So if you want the name starting only with A, T and R, you have to write A, T and R, and it will select only those names which start with A, T or R. So let's look at some examples here to understand it. So what we're saying now is that the above pattern, but the last character has to be L or M. So let's go back to the above pattern where we wrote this query. This was our pattern: 2 characters, hyphen, 4 characters, hyphen, and a single character. Okay, so that was our pattern. I'm going to copy the same query over here and just make the change here. So what we are saying now, that the same pattern, it should follow the same pattern, but the last single character should have specific values. Only it can take the characters L or M. So for that, I'm going to use the square brackets over here, and within the square brackets, I'm going to write those specific values. So L or M. Okay, so now if I execute this, so just looking at the data, the output that we got from the earlier pattern query, we also have data which has the last character as S or the last character, let's say, as B. So these records should now be filtered out. We had 36 rows from the earlier query. We should be expecting lesser number of records from the output of this query. So if I execute this, I'm going to get 22 rows. So all the records which had any last character which was different from either a L or M have been filtered out. Okay, so this is how we can check for a particular range of characters or specific list of values, list of characters that we want. So the next example we can see is any pattern with last character between L and S. Okay, so now we are not defining specific values, but we are defining a range of values. So anything between L and S, which means L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, all these alphabets should be covered here. So when you have to define a range, the only difference that you have to make is write the first character of the range, put a hyphen, and write the last character of the range. Okay, so this will cover anything between L and S, including L and S. So now if we run this query, we will get, so we have got one record which has the last character as L, and the record which has the last character as M, because it comes between L and S, and records with the last character as S as well. Okay, so another example that we can take here is, let's say, any pattern with last character between L and R. So it's similar to the one that we have just written. So only the S ones, like for example this one, should also be filtered out now. So we have 32 rows now. We should have lesser number of rows. So just write the first character of the range, which is L, put a hyphen, and the last character of the range, which is going to be R. So now if we execute this query, we have 23 rows. So all the records which had the last character as S have been filtered out. So this is how we can use the brackets, square brackets, to define specific values or a list of values within a range. Now the fourth wildcard character which we earlier discussed was the caret character. The caret character means any single character not within the specified range. Okay, or not within the specified list of values. So the example that we are going to take here is above pattern, the same pattern that we have been discussing all along, with last character not between L and R. Okay, so we just now said last character between L and R. So for that, what we did, we put the square brackets, we put the first character of the range, we put a hyphen, we put the last character of the range. Now we are saying that the last character should not be L, between L and R, so it can be S in this case. So to make it a not, what we need to do is just put this caret sign in the square bracket, within the square bracket. So that is what we are going to do now. So here is the caret sign, and now if I execute this query, I should be getting the ones, should be seeing some S, there is some B that we have seen, so nothing within the range of L and R. Okay, so let's take some more examples with the caret character. So product number not starting with F. Okay, so now we are saying that the product number should not be starting with F. Okay, so this is simple. You can also write this not like F%, but just for the sake of understanding this, you can write it. Okay, so if it has to be F, we would have written something like F and then %, because there couldn't be any number of characters after that. We are just talking about a single character, but it doesn't have to be F. So when it doesn't have to be F, we have to put this caret, which would be something like this. Okay, so now you will get all the product numbers that do not start with F. Now let's copy this and make it a range of characters. So now what we are saying is product number not starting with F or H. Okay, so the same query, but now we are going to give a list of characters. So F or H, we are not specifying a range, we are saying two specific values, two specific characters should not be there in the starting, so just add the other character over here. So now even the records that we got here with HL would be filtered out. Okay, so now you have records which are starting with S, C, L, but not either with F or H. Okay, so the next example that we are going to take is for a range. So this can also be written for a range. So the same query, we are now just saying, just defining a range. So not starting between A to H. So just put A hyphen H. That becomes your range. So anything between A and H will not be there. So this record with CA, that should be filtered out. So now if you execute this, everything will be between A, not between A and H. Okay, so you have L, you have R, you have S, P, all those characters which are after H. Okay, so these are the 4 wildcard characters that you should remember. These can be used to write plenty of queries. Some queries are pretty complicated, so you have to use a combination of these characters, use them multiple times, and do that pattern, define that pattern. So we are going to look at some more examples so that we can have some more practice and we are more familiar with the use of these wildcard characters. So the first example is going to be filtering the records from the product table based on the value of the column size. Now we want only those records for which size has a single character. So if you look at the data, you will see that there are values like L, S, M, and there's also value XL. So that makes it 2 characters. So you want to filter this one out, and all the values should have an alphabetic value. So there are also some nulls which we want to filter out. The value should be only a character, alphabetic character between A to Z. So the way we can write this query is select star from sales product table where size, okay, like, and we are saying that we want it to be an alphabetic value for one single character. So we need to define that range for alphabets, which is going to be A to Z. Okay, and no % after that because we want it to be only a single character. Okay, so this is the query that we write. Now if your database setting is case sensitive, you might also want to include something like A to Z. Okay, that will make it more filter records even if the value is in a lowercase. Okay, so now if we execute this query, we will have only the values which are single characters. So the Excel values have been filtered out in this case. Now let's say the next requirement, let's copy this. Let's say the next requirement is that we want only the Excel values, okay, but the requirement is the same, that has to be alphabetic characters. So what we can do in this case is we can write this query. Now since it has to be only 2 characters, you have to define those 2 characters, the wildcard for those 2 characters. For the first character, we have defined that it has to be an alphabetic character, which means within the range A to Z. The same requirement for the second, so I'm going to define A to Z and small a to Z as well. No %sign here because it has to be only 2 characters, okay. So now if I execute this query, I would be getting only the records which have 2 characters in the size column, okay. Now because we wanted a specific value, we said it has to be an alphabetic value, but let's just, if we had a requirement where we only wanted the first value to be alphabetic and the second could be any value, you could have used an underscore, because the underscore is also used to reference to a single column. Now our data is such that it is only alphabetic in the second character as well, so you will still get the same result. But I'm just saying that underscore and giving a value between the square brackets, these are the 2 things which will define any single character, okay. If you want to match as any number of characters, you have to use the %wildcard. Okay, moving on to the next example, which is going to be on the row GUID column. So what we are saying over here is that the row GUID column, let's first go to the row GUID column. It's over here, okay. Let's do a full select on the table first so that we can see the different values, okay. So these are the different values in the row GUID column, and what we are going to say here is that it has to start with a number. So the first character has to be a number. Now you can see in the first few rows, the first character is a number like 4, 9, but in this row you will see that the first character is an alphabet. So we want to filter out all these records where the first character is an alphabet. So we only want those characters to be number. So what you need to do in this query is simply first change the column name to row GUID, and we are saying it has to be a number. So for number, again I am going to define the range, which is going to be 0 to 9. So that is, those are the only digits which a number can have. So if you execute this query, okay. So why we did not get any result? Because we defined only a single character. So basically what we are saying here is that the row GUID is a single digit number or a single character, but it is not a single character, and the requirement is only to make sure that the first character is a number. After that there can be any number of characters and any character, so you have to add a % over here. Okay, so if I execute this query now, we will see that we have got multiple results, and if we go to the row GUID column, you will see that all the records are now starting with a number. Okay, now let's move on to the next example. So this example, we are going to filter on a number pattern. So product number with 3rd and 4th characters as numbers. So let's go back to product number. Okay, so what we're saying, the 3rd and 4th characters as numbers. Not the 3rd and 4th, it has to be 4th and 5th, because there is a hyphen that becomes the 3rd character. So let's make it 4th and 5th. Okay, so let's copy paste that query first. Now what we are saying, product number like, okay, so we are referencing to 4th and 5th, where we have to define them as numbers, which means the first 3 can be any characters. So for any characters we have to write 1 underscore, 2 underscore, 3 underscore, okay, which can be any characters. The 4th and 5th have to be number. So to define only a number character, you have to define a range between the square bracket 0 to 9. This is for the 4th character. The 5th character, the same range has to be defined, so 0 to 9 again. And then there can be any number of characters. After the 4th and 5th, we do not worry about what characters are there or how many characters are there. So in that case, we have to use a percent sign. Okay, so now if I execute this query, okay, so we didn't select the whole query. So if we execute this whole query, then we will get the result. Let's go back to the product number column and see if a pattern has been matched. So we said the 4th and 5th characters have to be number. In the first example itself, we see that the 4th and 5th characters are number. So 1 0 is there. Okay, moving on to the next example. So number is, okay, this is on list price with 2 decimal places. Okay, so this one is interesting. Let's just copy. Okay, let's just copy or write the select query first. So select star from sales lt dot product. Okay, now we are referencing to the list price. Let's go back to the list price. This is your list price with 2 decimal places. So most of them have 2 decimal places, and it has to end in 2. So the last decimal place, which is the second decimal place, should be a 2. So only this number is what we want to get. Okay, so let's get on to writing this query, where list price like, okay, so what we are saying, with 2 decimal places. So first of all, it has to be 2 decimal places, which means that before the decimal, we are not really worried about what is there. So let's just do a %. Okay, and then we want any number of characters before the decimal is fine with us. Then comes a decimal, so we write a decimal, and after the decimal, we want 2 decimal places, which means 2 numeric values, so 0 to 9. So the first decimal place could be any number. The second decimal place has to be 2. So we have to write that specific value over here. So this is how you have to frame your regex expression. Okay. And now if you execute this query, you will get only the list prices which have the second decimal place as 2. Okay. Now let's move to the next example. Okay, so here we are going to use the not character. Okay, the not character means basically that no, for that single character, the value should not be within that specified range or that specified list of values. Okay, so the example we are going to take here is product number. After first hyphen has either numbers or special characters. Okay, first let's go back to the product number. What we are saying over here is that product number, after the first hyphen, so this is your first hyphen, should have either number or special characters. So no alphabets should be there after the first hyphen. So let's frame this query again. Okay, select star from sales lt dot product. Okay, I'm just going to copy this as well, otherwise I'll keep on writing this. Okay, where, okay, so the filter is on product number. So where product number like, okay, let's see, after the first hyphen has either number or special characters. Okay, so before the first hyphen, we don't need to worry. If you need to specify a pattern that there should be only 2 characters before the first hyphen, we can use 1 underscore for first character, 2nd underscore for second character. Then there has to be a hyphen, and after this hyphen, it should be any value which is not an alphabet. So here, first of all, let's define the range. Alphabet means A to Z. Okay, so we are going to define A hyphen Z, which is the range for alphabets. But what we are going to say is that it should not be anything which is an alphabet. So let's do a not over here by using a caret sign, and any of the remaining digits I'm going to use a % over here. And now I'm going to execute this query. So what we are going to see over here is that we have, after the first hyphen, the next digit after the hyphen is a number. It's not an alphabet. It could also have been some special character. Okay, because we just made sure that it was not an alphabet, so it could also have been some special character. But in this case, as we can see, we have made sure that the first digit after the hyphen is not an alphabet. Okay, so moving on to the next example, we have the example. Okay, so this is again interesting. We are going to say that name has only alphabetic characters. So if you go to the name column, you can see that some of the names have some special characters like hyphen. Some of the names also have some numbers. But now we want to filter only on those names which have only alphabetic characters. So how we can write this query is, first step what we are going to do is we are going to find out all the name values which have any character which is not an alphabet. Okay, so what we can do for this is where name like, okay, %, there can be any number of characters, any character can be there including alphabetic characters. So but there has to be a character which is not alphabet. Okay, so to define an alphabetic range, we have to say A to Z, and since there can be any number of characters before or after this, we have % at both the places, at the starting and the end. Now what we're saying is we're trying to filter out on any of these values which have any character which is not an alphabet. It can also have alphabets in it. For example, this particular example. Okay, this particular value, it has got a lot of alphabets in it, which is fine with us, but it also has a special character. It also has some numbers. So this condition that we are checking is for any single character. So any single character which is not an alphabet. So making this caret over here, putting this caret over here, make sure that there can be any character which is not an alphabet. So as soon as it comes to this hyphen, this criteria will be fulfilled. So if I execute this query now, what is going to happen is I'm going to get all the records which have any characters which are not alphabets. Okay, now what was my requirement? My requirement was that I want all those records which have only alphabets. So what I'm going to do is a simple not like. I'm going to reverse the results. Okay, so I'm going to get all the results which are not included in this query. So simply doing a not. So I'm just going to do a not over here, and then I will be return all the values where the name does not have any character other than the alphabet, because we are saying not like. Okay, so not like any record with any character other than an alphabet or other than an alphabet. Okay, so if you execute this, you can see that now we have got values which have only alphabets in it, so no numbers or no special characters. So now let's change this query a little bit more. So now let's have the requirement that we want all these names. We want only those names which have no special characters in it. So we're just going to tweak this query a little bit. So in the first step, what we are going to see is we are going to find out all the name values which have a special character in them. Okay, so we are saying that any value other than alphabetic, which is A to Z, and other than numeric, which is 0 to 9. So which is what I'm going to add over here. So now if I execute this, we will get all those records which have any character which is any special character, which means any character which is not an alphabet or not a number. So if you look at this example, mountain bike, socks, M, it has alphabets in it, but it has also got a comma in it. Okay, though there is no number in it. Now again we have to just reverse this query, and which will return us the output where there is where there are no special characters. Okay, so all these records should now be excluded. There should be no special characters. There can be alphabets and there can be numbers. Okay, so now let's execute this query, and if I execute this query, again we have got only two examples. Okay, two numbers which are chain and minimum. So that is the only data that we had. Let's just add one more filter on product number with the same criteria, that it should not have any special character. And since you can see over here that there are special character, which means there is a hyphen in this product number, and we have just added this filter condition. So out of these two records, even these two records should now get filtered out. Okay, so you should not get any output. 0 records should be our output. So if you execute this query, 0 records here are your output. Just to show that this works to identify the special characters or identify the records which have no special characters in it. So this is how you can use all these wildcards, their permutations and combinations, to find out or filter, to have different kind of filter criteria. Basically they are used for pattern matching. The pattern matching can get complex, so you have to use all these permutation combinations. I hope that you like this video and it was helpful for you to understand these regex examples. If you did, then please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and do not forget to like, comment and share this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye.